Hello, my friends. Hello, hello. Welcome to another Midweek with Meaning. Please say hi as you're coming on if you're watching live. And if you watch the replay, please put replay in the comments. I just having a day where I feel like bopping around. I've been listening to such good music this morning. Man, that helps. Do you listen to good music every day? I sure hope so, because it makes life a lot nicer, for sure. Hi, Jessica. So nice to see you. So today I want to talk about psychedelics and birth. And I want to say that I'm very excited about this topic. And I'm pretty sure I say that every single week when I do Midweek with Meaning. So this is not crying wolf. Like, this is for sure legit, like one of my favorite things to talk about. So, I just kind of want to riff on it. And if you have questions, please put them in the chat, and I will do my best to answer them in real time as we're going. So what do I want? Where do I want to start with this? There is such an interplay. There is such a space between birth and psychedelics and death as well that are really, really related, I think. I have had the privilege of being a birth worker for a long time in my life. I was a doula for many years, as well as a labor and delivery nurse. I went to school specifically to be able to work in birth as a nurse because I just wanted to be close to it. Such an incredible experience. I'm just fascinated by not only the journey that mother goes through, her climbing this amazing mountain, and her triumph that she can have in birth, especially when it's held properly. And also, I'm fascinated by fetal consciousness and the way that we came into this world, the way that we come in. It's all a little bit different, but the same. And it's just so incredible to see the developing awareness of the newborn, as it's like, whoa, what's happening? So that's one component for me. And then the other piece is how incredible psychedelic assisted therapy work, or just psychedelics in general, can also have this experience of, like a mother giving birth, like, can be this tremendous mountain that people climb in service of their own healing. I feel like I'm really leaning forward, so I'm just going to bring my whole computer closer to me. Ooh, look it. We just moved together. I just hugged you with putting my arms around the computer. Anyway, this feels better for me because you want to see me up close anyway, right? So people with undergoing psychedelic assisted therapy or having a journey, a ceremonial journey, let's say an ayahuasca retreat or such, they are going through this ordeal. It's not just this love and light, bliss, magic, escapism. People are really confronting their own inner challenges, much in the way that a mother giving birth has to oftentimes face these internal challenges. And what is so fascinating when I relate someone going through a psychedelic experience to a mother giving birth is that both people are walking this journey alone. Now, they may be surrounded by care providers, like someone like myself. I like to consider myself a soul midwife, so I like to help people find their way through, but I cannot walk that path for you. I cannot birth your baby. I cannot help you. I can't confront your demons for you. You have to do that on your own. And yet being surrounded by people that can support you through that process can help you develop a sense of trust. The next thing that I think is so interesting about a parallel between a birthing person and someone having a psychedelic assisted or psychedelic experience is there comes a point in birth and in the experience where one needs to deeply surrender. The mother often will reach this place of allowing the process of birth, which has begun and is headed in a direction, to just be surrendered within it. For those of us that have had unmedicated births, there, and even for some people that I've been with that have had medicated births, it's become swept away. There's no controlling the train once it's left the station when it comes to birth. And the same with ingesting a psychedelic. It's going to go. And the more we fight the process, the more difficult it becomes. So the pain of birth, and oftentimes the pain in the psychedelic process, is part of the landscape of it. But it's only when we tune in, when we fall into this place of suffering and fear, that it becomes really unbearable and extremely difficult. Now, that doesn't mean that there's anything wrong with the experience of fear and suffering. It sucks when people are in that space. It super sucks. And what I have learned being with people in these ketamine assisted therapy sessions or other medicine sessions, in addition to birth and being with them as they birth their babies, is there is something absolutely victorious that people discover within themselves when they are able to be with the emerging experience and move through it. Because once they land on the other side, it's like, wow, look at my capacity. I have to say, I have never seen such joy and bliss as I have seen from a mother who has birthed their baby well. Now, please understand, I'm not saying any of this like if you have had a certain type of birth that you haven't birthed it well. You haven't birthed your baby well, or you did something wrong. That's not what I'm saying at all. But what I am saying is supporting people in claiming their own sovereignty and power is really powerful. It's really powerful. People change. People change. So I want to share real quickly a story of a lovely, lovely mother that I supported in her birth. So she was a young African-American woman. So we know that African-American women are especially just the inherent racism within birth is just everywhere, right? It's just fucked up. So her first child, she was really shamed about her pregnancy and told she couldn't do it, and basically like ended up with a C-section, really against her will. And she felt really afraid and really out of control. And so this was her second child. And she felt very much that she wanted to have an unmedicated birth and she did not want to have a C-section. So, my dream is to support that person, as long as everybody's safe and healthy, and we do everything we can to keep them safe and healthy, but to trust her instincts, right? This lovely young woman had a beautiful support team. Her partner was very supportive. She had a supportive doula. She'd received the care of a midwife. So we had the midwifery team caring for her, and I was her nurse. And man, she climbed a mountain. It was really hard for her, in that not only was there the physical aspect, but there was also this mental component, because she'd actually had a C-section fairly late in her previous labor. I think she'd maybe almost been close to pushing, or maybe she had been pushing. So maybe she'd gotten to like 8 centimeters or 9 centimeters, like really close to being able to push. And then they went back for a C-section. So she had this vacillation between fear and courage that, oh, I'm not going to be able to make it to that point. And can I get past it? Well, eventually she made it past this point. And when she made it past the point where she'd had the C-section previously, she just blossomed into this powerful birthing goddess. Her fear, she was afraid, but her courage like overtook her. And she, gosh, it was so great. Makes me want to cry. She got to this place where it was time for her to push, and she decided that she did not want to be on her back to birth her baby. She wanted to be on her hands and knees kneeling. Oh, so healthy for our bodies to be in that position. And we had the support folks there, because we always have an extra nurse at birth, and the midwives were kind of behind her. And the plan had been for her to catch her baby as much as she could. So when the baby came out, it was this beautiful little girl. Mom was on her hands and knees, and she was kind of upright, right? So she was kneeling, pushing. Baby comes out, and we had to like pass the baby between her legs so she could grab the baby and bring her up. And baby came out, and baby's eyes were wide open, and her arms were reaching like this. Her baby was like this. And mom looked down, and just they met each other. And her heart just burst with joy and weeping. Like, she was so proud of herself. And she pulled that baby up onto her heart, and just like, oh, it was so amazing. And what I really learned in that birth, and I hope you can see that I'm on the verge of making me cry, because it was so good. It was like, why do we not all come in like that? Why are we not just welcome? See? Why are we not just welcomed with that absolute joy and that absolute mom that feels like triumphant in her birth? And I guarantee you that mama and that baby have a really special bond, and that she's an awesome, awesome mama for that little one. So when I have been with people that are struggling through their psychedelic experience like that, but they have this determination and courage and support, when they come through that process, there is also this sense of triumph, of accomplishment, of achievement, and an inner, I guess words fail me. I'm not sure how to say it exactly, but there's this feeling that comes through. I can just see people find the core of themselves, where they are aligned with their deepest core that is also somehow profoundly spiritual too, right? It's beyond just their physical capacity. It's like this inward journey. So that's one part that I feel really relatable with psychedelics and birth. And the other part that is so interesting is, if we consider the experience of the baby and the ways that someone who is undergoing a psychedelic experience may be rebirthing themselves, they may actually have a death experience and be rebirthing themselves that way. To see the way that a newborn comes earthside, it's so incredible. So just so you all know, babies aren't just passively lying there during contractions waiting for them to be born. No, they're in there doing a little dance. They're tucking their head in. They're like, oh, here's a contraction. Maybe I should wiggle my body this way. And they have to do these amazing maneuvers to get their head and body out with a vaginal birth. And they're getting compressed. And I want to be really clear that I don't really think that birth is painful for babies, or not for all babies. I think that they're experiencing sensation, right? A newborn, a fetus, doesn't have necessarily an imprint of sensation having a meaning. So pressure to them is not pain, because pain is something that we figure out as we start developing more awareness. I think that's just, babies are really present little beings. They're not future tripping. They're not worrying about the past generally when they're brand new. And when someone is in a profoundly deep psychedelic experience like that, I think that they can also tap into that kind of place of pure sensation and experience without the, layering of having this dictionary that we refer to. I've seen that quite a bit with my clients that I do ketamine-assisted therapy with. Is ketamine is pretty reliably good at dissolving the default mode network, which is the part of our brain that keeps us really in that capacity to daydream, essentially. A healthy default mode network is the one that is like letting you think about what you're going to do after you listen to me talk today, or I'm thinking about how I'm going to have coffee later, that kind of thing. So it's a really wonderful part of our brain, but it can obviously get pathological. I don't even know if pathological is the right word. It can get kind of stuck. I think that's a better way to say it. Things can get stuck, especially when we've had trauma or we're struggling with depression and anxiety and those things. But ketamine reliably seems to quiet that peace and allows people to really be with what is coming up. And I know that other medicines do that as well for people. Ayahuasca, psilocybin, even MDMA, LSD, all of those things can create this state of being immersed in awareness. Now, in the psychedelic experience, of course, we're adults that have a dictionary of what things mean, what sensation means. So it can get a little different than like the birthing newborn. But when people are able to allow themselves to just remain curious and open to the sensations that are happening, even if they might be a little frightening, it gives us an opportunity to create, first of all, a relationship with sensation, just a relationship with it. Instead of having a sensation and immediately going to languaging it, like this sensation therefore means this, which then means I'm a horrible person, or whatever your pathway is that you go down and have a sensation. It means this feeling means this thought means I'm blah. We can kind of slow down that little space of like, it's just a sensation. How interesting. My hands are really clammy right now, or my belly feels wonky, without it having this big piece. And sometimes I think the other really interesting thing about psychedelic work is it increases our capacity for paradox. So people can often sit with an incredible amount of discomfort and yet also maybe find a place of pleasure within that range, which is a really healthy place to be, I think, to be able to kind of have a wider lens perception. I gotta take a breath. Because, of course, as I said, this is one of my favorite topics, no joke. And what else do I want to riff about this? It's not uncommon for people to have rebirth experiences and death experiences with psychedelic medicines, because in a lot of ways we're losing track of who we are. And I often wonder what a baby's experience is of who they are. You know, newborns are so incredibly connected to their mother. They're part of her body, and it takes a long time for young children to differentiate their body from mother's body. And that's a whole other topic of conversation if we want to talk about complex PTSD. You know, there's a really difficult place for people that have had very early childhood trauma, especially from their mothers, or maybe experiences of neglect, that it's really this enmeshed feeling of mother and baby as the dyad, as one piece, right? So yeah, maybe I should talk about that in another session, but it's so interesting to me. The things that I think are so cool, though, about newborns is, well, humans, the thing that is so cool about humans and the way that we're wired is that we are meant to connect. We are meant to connect right after birth. Like, the place for a baby is skin to skin on mom's chest, looking at each other. So if you have not seen a brand new newborn, most all of them, I don't think I've ever seen a newborn, unless it's had a difficult birth for some reason, not try to engage with the world around it. Almost every healthy newborn is very alert at birth. Sometimes they cry a little, but for the most part, they're very alert and they want to make eye contact. They can see, they're not blind. Babies can see like breast distance to face distance, that they can kind of see, and they do understand faces. And so they'll want to look at them. I did a training with someone who I can't remember at the moment, who demonstrated, he'd done some studies with brain patterns of mothers and newborns and fathers as well, other caring parents, and found that when we have babies skin to skin, face to face, that it rewires in mother an oxytocin pathway. So there's just like such a beautiful pathway of social connection and engagement that happens here. And when I am working with people in psychedelic assisted therapy, one of the important things we need to do is to create that connection, that social connection between us. It doesn't mean I'm mothering them necessarily, but what it means is it's allowing for a repair, perhaps, or a re-imprinting or an entrainment with someone else from a healthy and grounded place. The other thing that's so fascinating about newborns is they don't stress about their bodies. They're not like nitpicking about something. They're like, here's the impulse. That's a weird feeling in my belly. I think I have to poop. And they do, or they eat. And I really wish that we were in more of a place like that. Not impulsive in a dangerous way. I don't mean it like that, but not really fighting the sensations that we're experiencing. You know what I mean? So I want to shift just a little bit and talk about the future of psychedelic assisted therapies. As you may or may not know, we are moving closer and closer to decriminalization and legalization of psychedelics across the country. In some states, it's legal or not. Yeah, it's decriminalized mostly. And that's fantastic, I think, because I had someone say to me yesterday that they feel like psychedelics are the Hail Mary pass that we're tossing into this crazy planet that we're living on. So hopefully we can make some change happen, which I'm hopeful for. So I think what's going to happen is we're going to need more people that can support people going through this personal death and rebirth process, this deep healing process of psychedelic assisted therapy. And you who are birth workers and death workers, you have awesome skills to support people in this way. So why am I? Oh my gosh, Carol, I just saw that you were watching. In fact, that birth I think that I was just talking about was one that you and I were at. Do you remember that? Oh my God. Carol and I have been to some amazing births together. Some qualities that we carry as birth keepers is this, I think, a deep abiding trust in the mother's capacity to birth her baby. And as a psychedelic practitioner, I have a deep trust in my clients' ability to find their way to healing. Because look at it like this. The concept is, if you had an accident of some kind and you fell and you broke your arm, maybe you were riding your bike and you got a bunch of gravel and you broke your arm and your bone was sticking out, whatever, you go to the hospital and we'd clean it out. We would set the bone for you. Maybe there would be some stitches involved, but we are not responsible for healing. We create conditions for healing to occur. And in that space, your body knows how to heal. It figures it out, especially when we support it with the right nourishment, the right amount of rest. So much like how our bodies can heal, our minds can also heal in that way. When held in a supportive environment where we create conditions for healing, and you have practitioners that trust that that is going to happen, and we know how to help. We don't make you heal. We create that space. So those of you that are birth workers, hospice workers, people that are able to be with people in intense experiences, you have that capacity, and that's really awesome. The other piece that I think birth workers especially can bring to psychedelic assisted therapy work is that we are not uncomfortable with the body. We're not. Like, I have been at births where mom has an impulse to move in a certain way, and I trust her because she is getting messages that I can't understand. I mean, I can't know them, I guess is what I mean. But like, for example, I've had moms that have excruciating pain in one hip with a contraction. And what we find is that baby's rotated in a wonky way and the baby's head is pushing on the inside of her pelvis in a certain way. So what I'll often see is mom has this impulse to maybe lunge in a certain way. And what she's doing instinctively is creating space for baby to shift and move. So in the psychedelic practitioner work, those of you that have been around birth and trust this process, you also can, like, I can trust when I'm with my client and they're in a ketamine session if they're doing something energetically, like there is something happening for them that needs an unwinding, perhaps, or needs some holding, or needs more breath. And I can certainly support them through that. Another thing that I think is a really beautiful technique that birth workers carry is the concept of the take charge routine. So occasionally we're in a place in birth where moms can get really spun out. Like sometimes they move into this very activated, almost panic state, and which isn't helping. It really doesn't help. It just gets kind of wild. I've had moms bite me and scratch me because they're kind of just like freaking out wild animal. So we have the capacity to engage deeply and take the lead for a little bit, because that person is walking through the valley, right? They're walking through the valley of the shadow of death, and it's scary and dark, and they're freaking out. So we have to step in as someone carrying the light, carrying the lamp. Follow me. We're going this way. I'm going to get you through this rough patch and then continue. So when I've worked with my clients in psychedelic spaces, when they run into that space, there is a quality that I can bring of kind of that taking charge. This is what we're needing to do now. Let's move through this space. Let's try it together. Let's get here. I'm with you and I'm not leaving you. So that's another quality that I think is really essential. Also, I just want to say, if you're a birth worker and you're not feeling that way, then I think you should reevaluate why you're at the sacred portal of birth. It's just a good job or what? Or is it like, it's a massive honor to be with people bringing souls earthside. It's huge. And same with those of you that are working with people in death. It's a huge honor to hold that sacred space where we embody and disembody. It's huge. It's incredible work. And psychedelic assisted therapy has that same essence to it. So, oh my gosh. Anyway, I could continue, as you probably can tell. So I'd love to just open it up. If there's any questions this brought up for you or anything like that, I would certainly love to share more, but I don't want to go off for too much. I hope this is interesting to you. Feel free to share it if you'd like. Just a little aside, I am percolating in the very near future, starting a psychedelic doula training program. I'm really interested in bringing in the qualities of a birth worker to the psychedelic space. And as I said, the medicines become more legalized and more accessible, people are going to need that close, supportive trust and care as they go through these experiences. It's a really powerful birthright we have. So again, thank you for watching. Oh, one other announcement. We are in the middle of the Resilient Wellness Workshop. If you haven't had a chance to check that out yet, either reach out to me or you can also just text GG Well to 44222. In fact, I think I might even have it here. Let's see. Yeah. So to that number, we're on day 3 today. If you're interested, you can catch up and watch all the replays. The intention of this workshop is to kind of build our resilience moving into the fall season. So it's always appropriate to take another look at where we're at and collectively make some changes in service of our healing and well-being together. So I would love to have you join me there if you'd like. And also, if you're watching on YouTube and you like this, please like and subscribe and do all that stuff. If you're watching somewhere else, just give me some info. Just the messengers. What do I think of this? Oh, the psychedelic molecules themselves. Let me just put this on the screen. The psychedelic molecules themselves are living beings of light, infinitely more intelligent and advanced than humans, with wills and laws of their own. What do I think of that? I don't know that I could speak to that specifically, because my role as a psychedelic practitioner and birth worker is to support the experiencers' autonomy around what they think what that is. Some people consider these molecules are a lock and key. Some people believe that they allow us to open a release valve to perceive more of reality. Some people perceive these molecules as um, wise beings. And honestly, I think there's some evidence to support that, right? Like people talk about the spirit of Mama Ayahuasca. People talk about there's a spirit of psilocybin. I think that there's a lot more we don't know about that. But that's a really great question. So thank you for asking that. But also, I like how you said the psychedelic molecules themselves are living beings of light. But also, how are we not living beings of light? And I would also argue that we contain that infinite intelligence within us and we forget it. We've forgotten it. That's part of just being an embodied human, right? We came from somewhere and we're going somewhere. I believe that. Maybe you don't believe that, but I think the same place that babies come from are the same place that we're going to end up going, I believe. And I think we'll remember when we get there. But Earthside, we kind of get to be in that amnesia for what it's worth. So anyway, thank you, my loves. So good talking to you today. And thank you for joining me. I'll be back next week with another topic. All right. Bye.